Welcome to When Life Gets Strange, tips for loving your perfectly imperfect military and everyday life. Let me introduce you to my wife and your host, Maria Strange. We have been married for over 20 years, over 17 years in the Army, and she is the mother to our 6 children, and we are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. As a certified life coach, Maria's goal is to help you thrive and love your perfectly imperfect military and everyday life. Are you ready?
Hello, and welcome to episode 28 of When Life Gets Strange, Connection in Marriage. So what is connection? According to my mentor, Jody Moore, connection is an emotion that we are trying to feel. Now, connection is different than love. It is the feeling of being understood, seen and heard, and understanding and seeing and hearing someone else. Now, so what does that mean about marriage? Well, when we get married, we think that our spouse is going to magically solve all of our problems. We think that we're not going to be lonely. We think that no matter what comes up, we're going to have somebody there who's going to help solve it with us. And sometimes that happens, but more often than not, it doesn't. Because marriage comes with its own set of problems. It comes with different challenges than what we could even have imagined. A lot of the problems that we have in our marriage, it comes from wanting someone to meet needs that we need to learn to meet for ourselves. Now, if connection is the feeling of being understood, seen, and heard, does that always have to be our spouse? Or is it okay if sometime it's a girlfriend of ours that we hang out with who understands us, who sees and hears? What if it's we call our mom and she sees it, or our dad and she's like, or our dad and he's like, yeah, that can be hard. So yes, we want to have connections with our spouses, and I'm going to teach you lots of ways that you can today. But sometimes that connection is going to come from somebody else, and that's okay. It's okay that our relationships with our husbands look different than what we pictured. I know when I got married, I believed that husbands and wives were going to be home tonight every day together, because that was the kind of marriage my parents had. My dad was always home at night. Very rarely was he gone. I remember we went to girls' camp. My mom went to girls' camp for a week once for our church. And my dad took us younger kids and we went up there. I'm sure there was a need that he was up there for, but it just reaffirmed that belief to me that husbands and wives are together every night, sleeping under the same roof. And then we joined the military and poof, my husband is gone all the time. So right now we're coming up towards the end of October. This is the longest that he has not had a deployment in the last 10 years. And it's still hard for me. I'm like, are you sure you're not deploying somewhere? Like, what do you got going on? Yeah, he's got field exercises and things that he's going and doing, but he's not deploying. And my mind is still trying to understand the fact that he's not deploying. So our relationships with our husbands, they're going to look different than what we had pictured. There's going to be things that are so much better and things that are kind of worse than what we thought they would be. And it's all okay. Nothing has gone wrong. Now, I want you to think about this. Have you ever felt connected to someone you've never met in person? You've read a biography, you've listened to their podcast. Maybe you feel a connection to me. You're like, oh, Maria, she totally gets what being a military wife is like, because I do, right? So maybe you feel connected to me, or maybe it was somebody on a TV show or a movie, and you just felt like you knew that other person and you felt connected to them, but you never met them. So where is that connection coming from? It's coming from our thoughts of the other person. I know I have people who I listen to on podcasts and I'm like, oh my goodness, I just love this person. They get me on so many levels. Or I've read a book, like a biography of a great grandparent who I've never met. And I'm like, wow, this person and I, we have so much in common. And I'm like, I totally must be related to them. And I just feel this connection because of what we're thinking about them. So my question is, what if we got curious about our husbands? I wonder why he does it that way. I wonder what makes him think that. What if I just found ways to like him. So in coaching, or even on this podcast, you'll hear about it. I teach a concept that I call the manual. And what the manual is, just think of like a manual for your car. It tells you all the things that you need to do, when to change your oil, or a sewing machine, or a new coffee pot. I don't drink coffee, so I wouldn't really know that one. New Instapot, all the different things, right? They come with a manual and they tell us how to use them. Did you know that we have manuals for our spouses and for ourselves? And so I'm like, Spencer should be home every night for dinner. Husbands should be home every night. Husbands and wives sleep in the same bed. Husbands should open the door. Husbands should come home from work and help with the kids. Husbands should do the bills. Husbands should make the money or take out the trash or mow the lawn, whatever it is, right? We all have these manuals, and our manuals come from our culture. They come from our religion, the way we were raised, and when our spouse doesn't follow our manual, we create disconnect because we're thinking they should do these things. So some of the part of the manual that I see a lot in military wives is my husband should call every day that he's gone. He should text morning and night. Maybe the manual is my husband's not going to call at all because he's deployed, or he should connect with my children in a certain way. But what if we were able to just let go of our manuals? How could you feel? What would you feel like if you threw that manual away? How could you connect with your husband? Now, when I teach people that, like, just throw the manual away, right? They're like, well, shouldn't I expect things from my spouse? Is what I get asked all the time. And I'm like, of course you can have, what do you really want to? Because when we have an expectation, we're setting ourselves up for disappointment. However, we can totally make requests. Hey, Spencer, I really like it when you open the car door for me. But whether he opens the door for me or not, my happiness doesn't rely on him doing those things for me. Because I'm all about making requests and setting boundaries. But when we have expectations, more often than not, they're not going to happen. And we're just setting ourselves up for disappointment. And if you think about it, a lot of the times, the manual is about how we think the other person should show up, how we think they should behave. If my manual was like, Spencer should be home for dinner every night, and he should open the car door for me, and he should spend more time with our children when he's deployed or whatever it is, right? He should send letters to the kids. That's a really good one. Then when he doesn't do it the way I think, I'm disappointed. It really doesn't affect him a whole lot because remember, our connection is in our thoughts. It's in feeling seen and heard and understood. So what if we were trying to understand? What if we were trying to see our husband in the best light possible? What if we were trying to hear what he is saying? And when I get rid of my manual, because sometimes it pops in and I find myself starting to be frustrated with little things. Even just today, I had this manual. He should get up. He was taking a nap when I got home from grocery shopping. And I had this manual that he should get up and come help me unload the groceries. And then I felt frustrated because he wasn't doing it as fast as I thought he should. But really, who cares that he was taking a nap? I had kids around. They were helping. We were getting the groceries unloaded. All it did was lead to me feeling frustrated. It didn't really do anything for him. He's like, dude, I'm taking a nap here. I'm good. Look, I'm out in the living room where the kids were. I'm aware of what's kind of going on. But I was feeling frustrated because I thought he should show up a certain way. Guess what? The groceries got unloaded. They got put away. And I was able to move on with my day. But I was left feeling a little irritated. And it didn't serve me and it didn't serve him. But when I let go of that manual and I'm like, hey, Spencer, can you help me or not? And he's like, oh, what? I'm just waking up. And I'm like, no worries. And I just keep going. Then I'm happy. And I'm like, great. And you know what? Everybody's happier. But when I let go of my manual, I'm able to find the things that he's doing and love about him. Like tonight, he's making burgers for dinner. I don't have to cook dinner because he's like, you know what? I feel like grilling. I got this. I'm on it. And when I stop thinking he needs to connect with my children by doing XYZ, or he needs to love me by finding my love language and speaking it. Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, and maybe we want to do that. But when I stopped expecting it, I started to see how he was connecting with my children just in different ways. I started to see how amazing Spencer was. And so when you allow your spouse just to be them, it is so much easier to connect and to notice all the ways that our spouses are amazing and all the ways that they're doing things to connect us. So our manuals only hurt us because they cause us to be disconnected. Now, if we don't have any expectations of our spouses, why do we get married? We get married so that we can love them, so that we can have fun together, so we can have someone to share our life with, because loving someone feels so good. Having someone to be there with you and to be your partner in life feels great. And guess what? You get to just love them. Did you know that one of the best ways to feel better is to love someone, is to serve someone else? Having someone else to love allows you to feel better. And you feel good because your thoughts are, I'm loving my spouse. I get to serve my spouse in this way. So when Spencer's deployed and I start to feel frustrated that maybe he's not calling as much as I think he would, I'm like, he's not doing a lot on this deployment. Or really, I hear from otherwise how much their spouse is calling, because that one we hear a lot, right? The different levels of communication, because they're different people and they have different jobs and they have different responsibilities going on. But when I'm like, ooh, how is Spencer showing me love this deployment? And I get to work looking for it, I find so many ways that he's reaching out and loving. When I'm like, oh, I wonder why Spencer's choosing to do that task today. Like, why is he chopping that wood instead of cutting down the tree touching the house? And I get curious. I'm like, oh, he wants to get that out of the space, because when he chops down this wood off of the house, he wants to put it here and he's just moving things around. And I'm like, oh, and it allows me to be so much more understanding when I let go of our manual. So how can we get rid of our manual? Just like pretend you're reading it and you're looking up like, oh, what is he doing? And you get curious and you're like, ooh, how can I see him for the amazing person that he is, that he married? And you think about, why did I marry him? What did I love about him to begin with? What do I love about him now? What is fascinating? And maybe some of the things he does, it will still be kind of annoying to you, but you're like, maybe that could be fascinating. Maybe your husband has a really dirty car and you're like, what the heck, dude? Like, can't you take the garbage out? But instead you're like, I wonder why he doesn't clean up his car. He's pretty clean in my house. And then you might be like, oh, he's so clean in my house and picks up after himself because he loves me. Or maybe he doesn't, and that's okay. Maybe it's like the magic table. Have you guys seen there's a little clip where this husband and wife are sitting, and the husband's sitting watching TV and the wife is frantic. She's cleaning and doing all the things. And the husband's like, babe, just come sit down, because let me tell you what happens. This table is magic. And anything you put on here, laundry, dirty dishes, tomorrow morning, it's all going to be done. The laundry will be clean and folded and set here, be put away. The dishes will be washed. I don't know how it happens. And it's just magic. And the next scene, you see the husband has 2 police officers at their apartment. And he's like, I don't know what happened. My wife is just gone. And he's like, I think she must have ended up on this table, because what you put here just disappears. And the guy cop is like, yeah, I have one of those at my house too. And the female cop, you can just see she's thinking like, oh my goodness, you guys are idiots. But what if we got curious? What if we were truly looking for the ways that our spouse is doing the very best he can? What if we were trying to understand him and hearing him and seeing all the ways that he is great? Because if you really want to have good connection in your marriage, you're going to have to do some of it. You're going to have to look for ways to love your husband. One of the ways that we find to connect during deployments, maybe we watch the same TV show, and then that also gives us something to talk about, because I hear from so many military wives, there's just really nothing to talk about. Like, my day is the same day in and out. I get up, I take kids to school, I do my job, we cook dinner, we put kids to bed, and their job's pretty mundane and the same too. I guess mundane maybe isn't the right word, but they're doing the same things. It doesn't lead for a lot of things to talk about. And so you have to find ways to find that connection, right? Can you read a book together? Is there a video game that you can play together? Is there a hobby that you can both work on? Like Spencer's last deployment, he got into woodworking. And so he would tell me about a couch that they found that was going to be thrown away, and how he took it apart and pulled the wood out of it. And I can be curious about it. I can hear him. I can be excited for him, and he can be excited for the things that I'm doing. And we can find that common ground that helps us to connect. And we can let go of those manuals and just look for what we can love and appreciate about our spouse. Now, with that, we can still make requests. We can still set boundaries. If you're going to behave like this, I'm going to do this, because a boundary is about how we take care of ourselves. And it's okay if sometimes it's not your spouse who understands you, or who sees what's going on, or who hears you. It's okay to go to a friend, or to a parent, or to a coach or a therapist to find that, and get those people to help you to find those connections within your marriage. That's what we're here for. I would love to be your coach if you don't have one. I would love to help you create more connection in your marriage. I have a 12-week program that I've created that's just for you. So if you're interested, sign up at Maria Strange Coaching /work with me. I would love to see what coaching can do for you. Thank you so much for being here. And as always, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Maria Strange Coaching. Have a great day. Bye.